All right, so have you seen this thing from the CEO of Claude?
Yeah, I saw that.
90% of code written by AI in the next 3 months.
Yeah, sounds pretty crazy.
It's wild, right?
It's a bold statement for sure.
It is.
It is. I mean, it really makes you wonder, uh, what's next?
Yeah.
Is it hyperbole or
What's
is
wrong?
it really going to happen that fast?
Yeah. It's like, are we about to see just this huge shift in how software gets built?
Right.
Like, it's hard to even fathom what that would actually look like
It
if you
did.
think about it.
And I think what's so fascinating is the pace of development in this field.
Totally.
I mean, things that sounded like science fiction just a little while ago are now like serious discussions.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
it could happen next month kind of thing.
Totally. And it all kind of points back to this idea of vibe coding, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like I just describe what I want the software to do,
Right.
just in like plain English, and then boom, AI just takes care of the whole thing.
Yeah. Like no more, semicolons and curly brackets and all that.
Totally. Like all that tedious stuff is just out the window. And there's all these tools already doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Claude itself, obviously. GitHub Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
Cursor. Even extensions for VS Code, like CodeLine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see how quickly these tools are being integrated
It is.
into the actual development workflows.
It really is. It's all powered by these things called large language models,
Yeah.
which are essentially like really sophisticated AI
Right.
that have been trained on just massive amounts of text and code.
Right. I mean, they've ingested like the entire internet, basically.
I mean, they're like these code writing machines that can understand like natural language,
Exactly.
which is insane.
Yeah. They can translate our intentions
Yeah.
into working programs.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
So this deep dive.
what we really want to do today
Yeah.
is look at the sources that you've brought,
Yeah.
articles and research,
Yep.
your own insights,
Yeah.
and really try to wrap our heads around what this AI-generated code and this vibe coding really mean. What's the reality here?
Mm-hmm.
Is it all hype, or is there something really substantial happening? And I think what's important is to understand the implications of this for, everyone, whether you're a coder,
Yeah.
a developer,
Yeah.
or just someone who's, interested in tech and wants to understand how this is all evolving.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think what's so interesting is that it really raises some fundamental questions.
Absolutely.
Like how does this moment compare to other big shifts?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like in computing history, right?
Yeah.
Like, is this a
Yeah.
fundamental turning point?
Like, is this as big as like the introduction of the internet or,
Right.
the personal computer? Yeah.
It makes me think about the introduction of the C programming language
Yeah.
back in the day.
Back in the day.
There were predictions that C would completely replace assembly code.
Right.
And we know that didn't entirely happen.
Right.
Yep.
Assembly still has its niche uses.
Right. But
Yeah.
C massively expanded the number of people who could write code that ultimately compiled down to assembly.
That's right.
So the question is
Yeah.
AI-generated code following a similar path?
Right. It's a great question.
Right. Is it less about outright replacement
Yeah.
and more about this unprecedented expansion of the coding landscape?
Exactly. And I think the analogy with C and assembly is a really helpful one to keep in mind
It is.
because it reminds us that these transitions are not always about complete erasure.
Right.
It's about this widening of the circle
Totally.
of who can participate.
Absolutely. So what are some of the signs we're seeing that point to this expansion?
Yeah. Well, there's a few things that really jumped out at me from the research.
Right.
And one of them was this story about a platform called Lovable.
Yeah. I read about this. This is wild.
Yeah. This is insane. So they had so many users,
500,000.
500,000 users,
Building over 25,000 new projects a day.
every single day. That GitHub actually locked them out.
Can you imagine that?
It's incredible.
Like GitHub's like, whoa, too much code.
Right.
Slow down.
Yeah. It's just this fire hose of code.
It's insane.
Yeah. And what's fascinating to me is not just the number of users, but the scale of creation.
Yeah.
Like 25,000 new projects a day
It's unreal.
from a single platform.
It really makes you wonder what kind of software is being created at that volume.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. What are people building?
Yeah. It's incredible.
And it really highlights the potential for exponential growth when those traditional barriers to entry are lowered.
Absolutely. And, Lovable is just one example.
Right. There's a bunch of others.
We're seeing all these platforms pop up. Bolt, V0, even one called As that's specifically for building mobile apps. Plus, Aiden, the guy who created that super popular million-lint tool, just launched something called SameDodev. It seems like these AI-powered project generators are just becoming so prevalent.
Right. And I think what this indicates is a shift from like individual developers using AI as an assistant
Yeah.
to like this broader movement of democratizing software creation
Yeah.
on a massive scale.
Like, think about it like this. Just like desktop publishing kind of democratized design back in the day.
Yeah.
Maybe vibe coding is going to do the same thing for software.
Totally.
Right.
Like
You could have people creating all sorts of niche software for really specific needs.
Right. Unlocking this like wave of innovation in areas that maybe have been underserved.
Right.
Because traditionally software development has been so expensive and complex.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to developers, right?
Right.
Remember T3 Chat? That thing got like 100,000 users in its first week.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's insane. And that just shows you that these tools that allow non-developers to create things that used to require coders are really resonating with a much wider audience. It feels like we're on the verge of just this like absurd amount of new digital creations.
Yeah. I think the key takeaway here is this broadening of participation.
Totally.
Right. Tools that abstract away those complexities of traditional coding are empowering a much wider audience to bring their ideas to life.
Exactly. So now let's talk about what AI-written code actually means, right? Because it's easy to assume that AI is just going to step in and replace all existing handcrafted code.
Right.
But I think the sources are painting a different picture.
Yeah. It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's more like this massive expansion of the overall code ecosystem, which kind of brings us back to that C and assembly analogy.
Right. Exactly.
Like assembly code didn't
It
vanish.
just became a smaller percentage
Right.
of a much larger whole.
Exactly.
And I think AI-generated code is following a similar trajectory.
And there's a really important distinction to be made here
Yeah.
between the kind of code that AI can generate for, say, rapid prototyping, or for people who don't have a lot of expertise.
Right.
And the code that goes into like established, really complex software systems.
Yeah. That's a crucial distinction.
Right.
Because for those intricate code bases,
Yeah.
you still need deep engineering skills.
Absolutely. You can't just have an AI build the next Google.
Right. Right.
Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And in fact, some people are even claiming that like 70 to 80% of new code being written today is already AI generated.
Yeah.
When you consider how widely adopted tools like Copilot are.
Right. It's a staggering thought.
It's pretty wild. It makes you wonder, okay, so if AI is taking on all this code generation,
Yeah.
what happens to the software engineer?
Right. What is their role?
What do they do?
Right.
Like, does their job just disappear?
It's a valid concern.
It sounds like the essential skill set for a software engineer is kind of evolving,
Yeah.
right? Maybe writing code from scratch becomes less important for some, and other abilities become more crucial, like being able to Google effectively,
Yeah.
piece together information from different sources,
Right.
even being able to read through AI-generated code and figure out what the specific solution is.
Yeah. It's fascinating because it's like the engineer's toolkit is transforming.
It really is.
Right. It's less about memorizing syntax.
Totally.
And more about this like problem-solving agility.
There was this anecdote that really stuck with me
Yeah.
about this bug that was related to non-standard English characters in file names. And someone who hadn't even touched the code base in like 2 years was able to just intuitively look at a screenshot
Yeah.
and figure out what the problem was.
It's incredible.
And it's like that kind of insight,
Yeah.
that deep understanding of how different layers of a system work together.
Right.
It seems irreplaceable.
It does.
Right.
Yeah.
Like AI can generate code based on patterns,
Right.
but it doesn't necessarily have that same kind of deep contextual awareness and diagnostic ability
Yeah.
that a seasoned engineer brings to the table.
And I think that highlights the enduring importance of intuition
Totally.
and experience
Absolutely.
and this kind of holistic understanding of the underlying systems.
Yeah. It's like that real engineering is about solving these complex problems
Yeah.
that often span multiple systems.
Right.
It's not just about writing lines of code.
It's about understanding the big picture,
Totally.
the interconnections.
AI can't replicate that ability to diagnose those like obscure bugs in unfamiliar code bases.
Right.
It's just not there yet.
And that's where the human element really shines.
Exactly.
It's about this, like, taste that was mentioned.
I love that.
Right. Knowing when something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Even if the AI suggests it.
Yeah.
And having the judgment to guide the AI or to step in and take over.
Totally. Okay, so let's talk about vibe coding in practice. We've touched on it a bit, but basically it's like I describe a problem or a feature I want, in plain English, to an AI.
Yep.
And it spits out functional code.
It does.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
It does. But it's really a testament to how far these large language models have come.
It is.
And their ability to understand and translate human intentions.
Right. And there are all sorts of tools and APIs that make this possible.
Yep.
Some free, some paid. We've talked about Claude and GitHub Copilot.
Yep.
There's also the thing called Open Router.
Right.
Which is interesting. It's like a gateway to the underlying language models.
Yeah.
From companies like Google. So it gives you access to their models through a standardized way of interacting with them, which is what an API is.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's the client extension for VS Code, along with its predecessor, RU Code.
Yeah.
Those seem to be kind of key players in this space.
Yeah. And I think these tools are really democratizing access to vibe coding. So it's no longer just for like hardcore developers.
Right.
Anyone can potentially use these tools.
So what's the basic workflow like? Like if I want to start vibe coding, what do I do?
Well, it seems pretty straightforward from what I've seen. You know, you create a project folder.
Okay.
Make sure you have a decent internet connection. And then there's often like a YOLO mode or an auto-approve feature.
YOLO mode.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right.
So the AI can just run commands without you having to okay every single step.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah. It shows you how much trust some people are putting in these AI agents.
Totally.
To actually manage parts of their development environment.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the key to getting good results with vibe coding is all about the quality of your prompts.
Yeah. It's been described as kind of an art.
It's an art form.
Yeah. You have to learn how to talk to the AI.
Right. Like how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
What you want.
It's like this human-AI collaboration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are some of the benefits of this vibe coding approach?
Yeah.
I mean, a lower barrier to entry for software creation seems like a huge one.
Yeah, absolutely.
More people can potentially build software.
Right. It democratizes software creation.
And it also seems really promising for rapid prototyping. Right? Like just quickly trying out ideas.
Yep.
It could even be useful for debugging.
Right.
Applying quick fixes.
Yeah.
Although there's a warning there.
There is.
Right. The AI could potentially get stuck in these endless loops.
Yeah.
If it's not guided properly.
Right. You have to be careful.
And supposedly it can make adding new features much faster.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there's this suggested quick start workflow.
Okay.
Plan your project. Document guidelines for the AI to follow.
Yep.
Write clear and specific prompts.
Right.
Carefully review the output.
Yep.
And then refine through iterative prompting.
That makes sense.
It's like a conversation with the AI almost.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are also potential pitfalls.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Like you can't just blindly trust the AI.
Right, right.
It can still produce incorrect code.
Right. Or hallucinate features.
Hallucinate features. That's a great way to put it. Like
right.
make up things that don't actually exist.
Yeah.
And if you let the AI dictate the entire project without any human oversight, that could be a problem.
Yeah. You could end up with something completely different.
Totally. And not documenting guidelines for the AI.
Yeah.
Skipping the planning phase.
Right.
These are all recipes for disaster.
It's like you still need to be the architect.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're the one in control.
The AI is a tool.
Totally.
It's a powerful tool.
It is.
But you have to use it wisely.
There was this really interesting real-world example.
Oh, yeah.
About using the client extension with both DeepSeek and Claude 3.7 Sonnet to create like a really basic Windows application and a one-page website.
Right.
And what was fascinating was that even with the exact same prompt, the quality of the code that each model generated was significantly different.
Yeah. With
Claude performing much better.
Yeah. It was really impressive.
And that difference in capability is also reflected in their cost.
Right.
DeepSeek is free. Claude uses a paid API.
Yeah. So you get what you pay for, in a sense.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about the initial code generation.
Right.
You could actually refine the website through follow-up prompts.
Yeah. Like changing button colors or fixing spacing issues.
Yeah. And you could even use a screenshot as visual context.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's like you're having this visual conversation with the AI.
It is. It's very intuitive.
It's mind-blowing.
Right.
But I think the key takeaway here is that even with all this AI power, human oversight is still essential.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you still need to understand what's being built.
Right. You can't just blindly trust the output.
And you need to be able to intervene and troubleshoot when things go wrong.
Right.
Because they will.
Exactly.
So it's not a complete replacement of human expertise.
No.
Not by any means.
It's more of a collaboration.
It is.
A partnership.
So there's a lot of discussion and debate around this whole vibe coding trend.
Yeah.
There are those who believe that software development is inherently complex and requires deep technical knowledge.
Right.
And then there are those who see vibe coding as this way to democratize software creation. So anyone can do it.
Right. And I think it's kind of analogous to the debates we've seen in other fields.
Yes.
Like writing, photography, music.
Like where the barriers to entry have been lowered significantly, but deep expertise still holds a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you could pick up a camera and take a picture.
Right.
But that doesn't make you a professional photographer.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the concerns that's been raised is this potential for what's been called horseshit code.
Right.
Which is basically code that's generated really quickly.
Yeah.
For like prototyping, but isn't really designed for the long term.
Right.
Right.
Like it's not maintainable.
It's not scalable.
It's not robust.
It's going to break.
Yeah. It's going to fall apart under pressure.
And they have this contrasting term, yacht problems.
Right.
Which are the challenges you face when you suddenly have a massive user base.
Yeah.
Right. And what's interesting is that there seems to be a shift towards just paying service providers to handle those scaling challenges.
Yeah.
Rather than hiring huge teams of engineers.
Right. It's more cost effective.
So there's this idea that as generating code becomes easier, this human taste becomes even more important.
Right.
Right? Like being able to guide the AI effectively, identify potential issues, make sure the code aligns with the overall vision.
Exactly.
But then there's also the concern that if people rely too heavily on AI tools, especially early in their coding journey, they might miss out on developing that fundamental technical understanding.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. They might become too reliant on the AI.
Totally. So it's this balancing act.
It is.
Right. You know, so to kind of bring it all together, it's clear that AI is having a huge impact on how software is created.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're seeing this massive increase in the amount of code being produced.
Yeah.
And the role of the software engineer is definitely changing.
It's evolving.
Vibe coding is opening up all sorts of new possibilities, right? It's lowering the barriers to entry.
Right.
It's speeding up development.
Absolutely.
But it's also bringing its own set of challenges.
Right. It's not a silver bullet.
And it's requiring a shift in what skills are essential.
Yeah. And I think the analogy with C and assembly is really relevant here.
Totally.
Right.
AI is probably not going to completely replace human written code.
Right. Especially for complex systems.
Right.
Mission critical systems.
But it could empower way more people to create software.
Absolutely.
Which would lead to this huge expansion of the digital landscape.
Right.
So it all comes back to that thought-provoking question we started with.
Yeah.
In a future where AI is writing most of the code, what defines the role of a human being?
Right. What is our unique value?
In the software development process?
Yeah. It's a big question.
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And I think it's a question we all need to be thinking about.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, how do we adapt to these incredible new tools?
Right.
Leverage them, but also preserve those fundamental engineering principles.
Right. And human insight.
Yeah.
Which will always be valuable.
Totally.
Right.
So we encourage you to explore these tools.
Yeah.
Play around with them. See what they can do. And really think about the long-term implications of all of this.
Yeah. For your own work.
For your learning.
Your interest.
Just for your understanding of the world.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time to be alive.
It is.
And we're really just at the beginning of this whole thing.
Yeah. Who knows what the future holds?
Who knows what's next?
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yep.